everyone. It's good to see you all. I'm just pulling up the question for today as we see it. Here's the question. Changing your dwelling place. Let me know if you can hear me, actually. How about we start there? Let me know if you can hear me. Drop a 1 in the chat. The question. Let's see. Mercedes, hi, I see you. Excellent. Imani, hello. Let's read the question. Changing your dwelling place, the state you most often return to naturally. Neville says that is what manifests in an instant. I feel like I'm forcing it when I'm dwelling in my desired state. I'd love to know how to make it natural rather than it being a chore to keep the state on fire. Being a chore might be the wrong choice of words. It just sucks knowing that isn't my dwelling place, but something I'm having to consciously maintain. The trying and striving seems like the true state rather than just being. And of course, that brings about more trying and striving. That is a most fantastic question. And to answer it, I'm just going to get into the chat because that way I can see what's happening. Right now, I can't. Okay. The state. Neville says the state that you live in does what? It takes on the tones of reality. What does it mean to create a state? It means to program the subconscious mind. Meaning, something has to become second nature to you. Something has to become your way of doing things. Something has to become the old man. Yes? How do you program the subconscious mind? We program the subconscious mind by repetition, or by repetition with a strong emotion. How do you know this? How do you know that? How do you know that you program the subconscious mind by repetition? How did you learn to read? How did you learn mathematics? Repetition. Yeah, by repetition. It is before you. You get it in so you can do what? Recreate it. As within, so without. So to create your state, what state do you want to create? The state of knowing is, I was driving, my bestie and I, we talk all the time, all day, every day. So we're talking and she says, well, this is what I want. I want this kind of a bookmark with a unicorn on it to match this book. She goes into the bookstore. She sends me a picture. She goes, oh my God. I wonder what she found. A bookmark with a unicorn that matches her book down to the color scheme. What state was she walking in? The state of, you know what? I know the law. I do. And it says, I reap what I sow. As within, so without. What do I want? I want this bookmark. But then here's the thing. The other side of that is, we want something. We want to create something. And then we say, well, I sure hope it turns out. And I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean you hope? What did you just do? Did you not just call that bookmark out of nowhere? Coincidence, you call it? No such thing. Coincidence is another name for the law unknown, right? So that's what happens. The state that you are walking in, the state that you are living from, should be a state of knowing what? That you know the law and you are governed by it and you know how to create. That is the state you want to live from, as opposed to, I'm just a state of, a happy mother. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the chat, right? Happy Mother's Day. What if somebody said, well, what if I don't know what that state should feel like? You see, you should walk in one state, and that is a state of knowing. Why knowing? Because when you know, that's where you create from. You never have to question the self. You never have to feel like you're forcing your state. If you say, this is my state. Some people have that affirmation that they use, everything is always working out for me. Now, they tell it to themselves so much, right? That everything is always working out for them. Why? Because repetition is what programs the subconscious mind. So they say it all the time, right? They say it all the time. But the state of knowing, that you are a creator is the state to be in. It never has to be modified. It never has to change. It remains consistent. I'm going to go back to that question so I stay on track. So that state of knowing, because I'll tell you what, as I was driving earlier today, and the thought just came into my mind of, you just speak it into existence, don't you? That's what you do every time. You don't have to prove it. You don't have to will yourself to believe. But what you do need to know is the law. If you know the law, I'll give you an example. If you say, girl, every time I get around my family, there's always going to be some kind of a brawl. Somebody's going to argue. Do you know that? You know it to the fact that when you get there, you know how to prepare. Because you know what's coming out of that interaction. You just know. You're not hoping. You just know what's coming out of that interaction. You know what's coming out of that interaction because you know. You've experienced it enough to know. So now, the state that you're in, you should be experiencing those coincidences, synchronicities. I use bunny ears because they aren't any coincidences. There aren't any. If you say, this is what I expect to happen, because that's what I'm creating, who is saying that? The self that is sure. The self that knows. So when you hear things like, you got to get into the state of happy homeowner. You got to get into the state of happy housewife. You've got to get into the state of phenomenal employee. The law doesn't change states. The law just is. So when you are in the state of, you know what? I know the law, I apply the law, and I reap what I sow. It doesn't matter what you want to sow. You know that if you plant it, you reap it. That is the state to be in. Because you never have to change it. How do you get there? You get there with application. 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 That's how you get there. How do you apply the law? You apply the law first by knowing it. Mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, causation, gender. Those are the laws. The all is mind. The universe is a mental creation, which means if I'm thinking it persistently, I'm creating it. That's what it means. And it means I have to see on the outside what I have going on in here. That's what that means. So if you get up every day and you are, what am I creating today? What do I want to experience today? And you say what you want to experience. Just say it. What do you want to experience today? You want to get some free stuff. What do you want? You want to raise? You want to have good interactions. What do you want to experience today? You say, all right, here's what I want to experience. That's it. You start with that practice. Do you know why? Because when you practice it, you are going to see if you stayed. What are you going to see? If you say, I want to get a bookmark with unicorns, with this color scheme that matches my book, and you see it, what are you going to do? Are you going to say, oh, where did that come from? What a coincidence. No, you're going to say, I call those things that are not as though they were, and they become. That is the state. I'll tell you why it's the state. I'll give you facts, not feelings. The all, you understand. The all is mind. When you're drawing sacred geometry, you start with one circle, the self. What's the next step? Recreate the self. So if the self is sure, what will be recreated? Well, not doubt, that's for sure. As long as the self is sure, only surety and clarity can be recreated. You see, we look and we think, I need to feel this way all day, every day. No, you need to be sure of yourself. This is why, man, know thyself. Because if you know who you are, well, that's all you ever recreate. You recreate yourself. You don't recreate anybody else. You don't recreate anything else. You are always recreating the self. So if you're sure of yourself, clarity, do you know what you want? If you say, I want a bookmark with unicorns, with this color, pink, purple, a little bit of white somewhere in there, that matches my book. I don't know what the book looks like. I don't remember. But she does. And that's what she wanted. Now, did she have to get into a state akin to sleep? No. What is the purpose of the state akin to sleep? To program the mind. To program the mind to have clarity. So that when you say, I want to create this, an image comes to mind. Right like that. That's what you're programming when you use states akin to sleep. This is why Neville can tell you he was shaving. Did he have to get into a state akin to sleep, or did he just shave? He knew who he was. Because every day he practiced who he said he was going to be. That's what it is. So that when you say to yourself, because you'll catch yourself when you pop out of alignment a little bit. When you catch yourself saying, oh, I really wish this thing would work out in my favor. You say, wait, what? Whoa, what do you mean you wish it would work out in my favor? What do I want here? What's the favor I want this thing to work out in? That's what I want, and you speak it into existence. That is the state that you create from. But if your state is one of, I don't really know what I want. This stuff is so hard. Like, I don't even know if it works really. I don't know. What are you recreating? Doubt. You are recreating doubt. Because the self doubts. The self doubts. So if the self doubts, only doubt can be recreated. It is law, correspondence, as within, so without. So you must be sure of self. How do you get to be sure of yourself? Learning and practicing. But you see, what do? Because we're afraid, yeah? We don't want to make a mistake. You cannot make a mistake by way of law. Everything works according to law. So you can't make a mistake. What you have within is what you experience and create on the outside. So how can you make a mistake? You can't make a mistake. So if you're unsure of yourself and tentative and timid, what will you recreate? It doesn't matter if it's money. It doesn't matter if it's a job. It doesn't matter if it's a spouse. It doesn't matter if it's a house. Who's rapping today? It doesn't matter what those things are. What matters is the self that is doing the creating. When they all said, let there be light. Or should I say when the Creator said, let there be light. Let there be light. And there was. Did the Creator say, let there be light? No. The Creator was sure of itself. So when it said, let there be light, light had to come. Not because it was magic, but because the Creator was sure of itself. It did not have an insecurity. So all we are doing all day, every day, is programming the subconscious mind so that now when you get up in the morning, you spent that time learning the law that it became alive within you. And that's who you became. So that when you said, you know, I really would like a bookmark that matches. What other option was there for the bookmark? It had to appear. Because you called it. You said, this is what I want. But you see, with us, what do we say? Oh, but you know, these things are so few and far between. I don't know if that's really possible. What is the self doing? A house divided against itself can never stand. The other scripture says, well, a double-minded man can get nothing. Why can you get nothing as a double-minded man? Because you don't have a clear image from which to create. You are here and you're there. You're here and you're there. That is why. So when you program the subconscious mind, you are doing repetition. What are you repeating? You are repeating the practice of holding an image and projecting it outward and watching it come back to you. That is what you are practicing. All day, every day, projecting an image and waiting for it to show up. But you must be sure of yourself, because it requires a steady hand to hold the image, so that it doesn't feel like, am I doing it right? You can only get it right because the image within you is what is being recreated. So, Angela, why then, let me go back to the question. Why does it feel like you're forcing it? It feels like you're forcing it because comprehension was required. That's why it felt like you were forcing it. You see, when you comprehend, to understand means you kind of get it, but to comprehend is deeper. You get it. When you comprehend that you go outside and you look around, lilac trees are in bloom right now. Well, what seed was planted to bring forth lilacs? Let me guess, a lilac? Yes. Do you need to believe that? Or do you need to just know it because it's right there? That is what the state is. A state of knowing that what you say, you create. What you think, persistently, you create. There's no maybe. No. You're creating it. But you see what happens with us? We want to judge ourselves. So if you say, I want $1 million in the bank, I'm going to create $1 million in the bank, you don't even believe that. You see what I'm saying? You don't believe it. You still think it's far-fetched. That is yourself telling you what's in your subconscious mind about money. So what do you have to do every day? When you get up, you say, okay, look, let me start here. If I think $5 is easier, if I think $10 is easier, if I think $50 is easier, well, I'm going to start there. Do you know why you start there? You start there because you are testing. How steady am I holding that image? How steady am I holding that image? Do I trust myself? Or do I hear the words of somebody else in the back of my mind saying, money doesn't grow on trees. You have to know somebody. What kind of wickedness you doing to get that kind of money? Is in the back of your mind. And that thing that is in the back of your mind is yourself. And that is where you're going to recreate from. So in order to create new neural pathways, you now have to practice a new experiment. You say, all right, here's what I want to see today. So if you say, this is what I want to see and experience today, and it doesn't happen today, see, shit don't work. Or are you going to get up and say, all right, let me readjust. How did I feel about that? You know what? I kind of sort of still felt doubty in a way, like, I wasn't so sure that was going to work. Let me try again. I want to see, I want to experience, I want to hold in my hand $50. It didn't happen again. Man, I suck at this. This shit doesn't work. How do you program the subconscious mind? Repetition, or repetition is strong emotion. So if you say things like, that doesn't work, is that not a strong emotion? And that strong emotion left an impression in your mind that manifestation does not work. So the state of knowing is that, you know what? I program myself by way of repetition. I'm going to repeatedly do this exercise. I'm going to repeatedly do it. And every day I do it, I'm getting a little closer. Every day I do it, I'm getting a little closer. It's making more sense every time I practice. Because think about it. You had to learn your times tables. 12 sixes are 72. 12 nines are 108. 6 sixes are 36. I know my 12 times table. How did I know them? How did I learn those? Repetition. This is why you don't punish. It is a strong emotion. And so when you're learning the times tables, what do? 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 1. 3 times 1, 4 times 1, 5 times 1. You do it and 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 you do it till you don't stumble. How do you know when it's in your subconscious mind? Because you don't stumble. So when you practice holding the image, I just want to get $50 today. I want to experience that. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. That's what I'm creating. $50. That's what I'm creating. $50. That's what I'm creating. Do it again and again and again. Not because you're crazy, but because the subconscious mind is programmed by way of repetition. So you must do the behavior repeatedly. 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 So if you're saying things like, but, you know, I want to be in a relationship, so I'm going to see myself as a happy housewife, a happy bride. We've been married for years. I'm going to see that. I've never been married. I don't know what that feels like. But do I get up every day and I remind myself of my good qualities? You're damn right. Why is that important? Because if you get up every morning and you remind yourself of your good qualities, You know who you are. When you know who you are, that's where you create from. So the spouse that you're longing for is an image of you. It is a recreation of you. So if you don't come correct, meaning knowing you, confident you, beautiful you, smart you, funny you, talented you, if you don't come knowing that, what are you going to recreate? Somebody that doesn't know themselves. That's what you'll know. That's what you'll recreate. The trying and striving seems like the true state. You see, it's not trying and striving. It's auto-correcting. It is ready, aim, fire. No, you get ready, you fire. And when you see if you hit your mark or not, you aim. You don't know where to aim if you don't fire first. You have a general direction. But if you do the thing and you miss the mark, you say, I need to adjust a little bit over here. So that's where the striving feels like you're doing. It is practice, not striving. It is practice. And this is the beauty of the 3D. You get to see what you're doing so you can say, oh, snap, I came so close. Oh, rewind, come down, selector, as they would say in Jamaica. Do it again. Do it again. But what does scripture tell us? Do not grow weary in doing good. There's always a young monkey on the road on a fast motorbike. At least it wasn't a Harley. But do you hear what I'm saying to you today? It is not striving. It is practice. So when you say, okay, I got real close. All right, more confidence is required. That's all it ever is. There's doubt somewhere in the mix that's causing you to question yourself. Well, maybe that'll happen. Maybe it won't. I don't know. What if I don't? That is what you are reprogramming. You are programming confidence instead of self-doubt. Really and truly. Does this make sense? Are there any questions? Yeah, because it really isn't a chore. You know, I understand what you mean. It really isn't a chore. When you say things like, you know what, I want to be a better person. What does that mean? You want to be a better person? What state is that? I want to be a better person. What does that mean when you say it? Are we just saying flowery words? What does being a better person constitute? What does it mean? What does it look like? Then you start to behave in the way of a better person. Man, I don't want to cuss people out so much. All right. What does that mean? It means I would like to have more cordiality, more peaceful relationships and interactions. And that means when you go outside, right? Because you just said what you wanted to create. You wanted to create more cordiality, to be cordial, to be kind, to be pleasant. That's what you wanted. Well, then it starts as within, so without. Don't cuss yourself out. Don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Say kind words to yourself. So that when you do that, what are you practicing? What are you programming your subconscious mind to do? You are programming your subconscious mind to be kind to others. This is what you're doing. We are constantly programming ourselves. And when that program takes root, that is the state that you are in. Questions? Is anybody home? Am I here all by myself? Oh, Lord. I really don't want to close the window. It is, what's the temperature outside today? What is the temperature outside? The temperature outside is 22 degrees. Clear blue skies and sun. Oh, indeed, it is lovely, right? I want to enjoy myself, you know? I want to enjoy myself. So I'm just going to go here, and I have to change from the chat to the weather. Yes, we are practicing. We are practicing a new way to be. What is that new way? That new way is confidence, surety of self, non-victimhood. That's what we're practicing. Oh, but you don't know what they did to me. Oh, Imani, I'm loving this question. How do you balance belief in your manifestation versus feelings of being irresponsible or unrealistic? You create from a place of fact. What is it that is required? This is what you're creating. This is the manifestation you're creating. What is required? You create from fact, not feelings. So the feelings of being irresponsible or unrealistic. If you see that you've got $20 in your bank account, the responsible thing to do is to buy some food for the house. Is it not? That's responsible. But at the same time, after you purchase your food, you look at that $20 and you say, I don't want to be in this place all the time where I'm dealing with financial insecurity. I want financial security. Okay, where can I diversify? Where can I expand to bring in more money? Where can I take action to develop multiple streams of income? Where can I do that? Do you know why you ask that question? To be responsible. Because to be financially secure is to be responsible. Because we all have responsibilities, whether they be children or bills. We have responsibilities, and we want to be faithful to our responsibilities. Because this is what you want. Yes? So you look at your situation. Look at it. You want financial security. Then you sit there. What is it that I want here? I want the ability to pay my bills on time and in full. I want the ability to have a stocked cupboard and fridge. I want the ability to buy what I want, when I want, and how many I want. That's what you want. That's what you want to create. So now you know what you want to create. Begin to develop the behavior, because it is the behavior. Listen, you can come into a large windfall of money, but if you have not practiced saving and investing, if you haven't practiced saving and investing, what are you going to do? You won't know how to save and invest because you haven't practiced it. You haven't practiced responsibility. So how can you become responsible? You have to practice responsibility. That's what you do. And then when you look and you say, all right, I've got these skills. These skills equals this many avenues or streams of income. I want the opportunities so I can take full advantage of them. What are you doing? You've just, with clarity, said what you wanted, and now you're watching for it to come. You're watching for the pathway to be revealed, is what you're doing. Neville Goddard calls it a bridge of incidents. Queen Red Pill, when I think it comes so quickly, because that's your state that you are manifesting from. That's your state. Your state of, well, you know what? I got to be careful because this stuff comes really quickly. And so I always have to have clarity because this stuff happens real fast for me. That's your state. And how do you know it's your state? Because of the evidence and how many times you've done it. How many times you've done it. And how many times you've seen it happen. So now you know it to be fact. You don't have to believe it. Imani, the word belief You need to know, not to believe. They're not the same thing. How do you balance belief in your manifestation? You need to know that what you say, your word does not return unto you void. You need to know that. How do you get to know something? By seeing the evidence of it every single time. That's how you know a thing. But to believe it means, I just told you a story about my bestie. You have to believe me because you weren't there. You don't have the photo in your phones. So you have to believe. You have to take my word for it. But you see, the law does not require belief. The law is not asking you to believe me, darling. You must trust me. That's not what the law is saying to you. The law says, go outside. Plant some corn. Come back and tell me what you get. You can rely on what you plant in the ground. So long as you plant an acorn, you will always get an oak. The law is. So it doesn't ask you to believe it. It says this is what happens. Plant a seed of confidence and you will move through the world confidently. And you will interact with people confidently and you will gain things that confident people do. That's what the law is saying to you. You don't have to believe it. You need to know it. So that when you get up in the morning, you go, oh, Lord, what kind of day do I want to experience today? You can sit up in bed and say, well, this, and this. That's what I want to experience today. So when you get up and you go through your ablutions and you get dressed, you do your hair, you put your clothes on. When you do that, you know. Just like Queen Red Pill says, when I think, it comes so quickly. She knows this from what? Experience of practice. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question, Imani? Sometimes, the deeper the question, the more specific the answer can be. Meaning, whatever situation it is. Imani says, this resonates. I read Think and Grow Rich years ago and only now am I getting it. This is why that saying exists. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. When you are ready to learn, you learn. What makes you ready to learn? The desire to change. When you are tired of being as you are, that's when you learn. But you'll notice with those same people who are tired of where they're at, they don't just learn, they apply. Sometimes with what's going on in the world, we become distracted. And so the first thing that goes is application. Why? Because it's work, it's effort. Application takes practice. But to be on autopilot, meaning to live the way you have always lived, to live the way you've been programmed to live, is easier because it takes no thought. You just do. That's what is called being. You're just being. You're just being you. You're just being what you've always been. You're just being what you learned to be. So to be someone different, you must do what? Practice being different. You see, the only way the community changes is if the mind of the individual changes. In order for the community to change, the individual mind has to change. Why? Because a community is made up of individuals. You cannot have a community without individuals. There's only ever the self. Yeah? Cyber. Oh, Imani, if you have more questions, let me know. Cyber says, is the appointed hour even a factor anymore after you've reached this state? Well, according to correspondence and causation, the appointed hour still stands. It is part of law. Every cause has its effect. Another example is this. You went through life, you started out with mega hardship. But somewhere in your middle years, you decided who you were going to be. 3 people come to mind: my grandfather, Billy Carson, and my bestie. Somewhere along the line, you said, no, I will not stay the same. This is madness. They were driven by something. My grandfather was driven by the fact that he was not going to be like the other men that he grew up around. Billy Carson, he was driven by the, I am not staying in the hood. Are you crazy? This is no way to live. My bestie said, oh, no. Nuh-uh. I will protect my child at all costs. Now, the appointed hour, when you're raising children, you may not see the far-reaching effects just yet. But when you can look through your life and see that the things you did caused your daughter to marry well and become a good mother, everything has its appointed hour. Billy Carson had to put in the work to learn how to build a computer and to build a computer program that he could then sell. Everything has its appointed hour. Because everything bears fruit. Just like in the winter. Winter is not the appointed hour to grow anything. Spring is the appointed hour to think about it and start your seedlings and get them in the ground after the last frost. Fall is the appointed time, the appointed hour of harvest. That is the appointed hour. It always will stand because everything has its appointed hour. It is the distance between cause and effect. The distance between cause and effect is the appointed hour. Queen Red Pill. Cyber, does that answer your question? Queen Red Pill, so knowing and then applying constantly is the key? But of course. Yes. Knowing and then applying what you know. Consistently. Apply the law the same way every time. Because that's how the law appears, the same way every time. That's your teacher. You can't go out in winter and say, I'm gonna plant my garlic right now. No, you have to plant your garlic in the fall. The ground is cold. It preserves the bulb of garlic so it doesn't rot. Yes? That's what it does. So you plant your garlic in the fall. So now when it snows and that ground becomes hard, it may appear like the garlic is lost. No, that heat is trapped right there around the bulb. It generates its own heat as it starts to grow and sprout roots. And it takes its time to burrow downward. So come spring, little shoots, you will see them coming up. Right? So the law happens the same way every time. You plant your garlic in the fall, every fall. You can't deviate. You do it the same way every time. So knowing and applying, that's how you do it. Know it and apply it. Know it and apply it. Why? Because you are guaranteed results every single time. What kind of results? You reap what you have sown. That's why there are no surprises. That's why there are no surprises. It happens the same way every time. How can there be surprises? That's why the law is consistent. And this is also why the law is just fact, not feelings. Like, I don't feel like doing it today, Mummy. I don't feel like peas. It's not feelings. The law is fact. And it works the same way every time. And the reason why it works the same way every time, then you know you can trust it. You know you can trust the law. How do you know you can trust the law? go outside on a full moon. You know, listen, you can look at your calendar and tell when the next full moon is. How? The law of rhythm. So you know when that full moon is coming up. Unless, of course, you've got cloud coverage and you can't see it. But because the clouds are there does not mean the full moon is not. So the law of rhythm always is. The law is reliable because reliability does what to you? Trust. So you know. And when you know a thing, you do a thing. What's this question? Cyber. It does, thank you. Neville says 3 days, but it doesn't mean 3 literal days. 3 represents fullness, but surely you wouldn't be longing for that appointed hour if you were already fulfilled internally. Indeed, cyber darling. You see, when you... A sower goes out to sow, right? The farmer goes out. Now, he can't necessarily predict if Mother Nature is going to have a flash flood this year. He just knows he's not in a floodplain. So when he's going to plant, he will do it the same way every time. What does that mean? It means he is sure of what he is going to do. He knows, I have this field and I'm putting wheat in here. Here's all the things that can bother my wheat. Let me mitigate those things by knowing how to take care of wheat. So that when he plants his wheat, he doesn't doubt, well, maybe the wheat will come in. Did I do enough? No, he knows because he learns and he applies what he learns. So that what? There's no room. So yes, you are fulfilled. Why? Because you don't doubt, you know. That's why. So yes, Cyber, you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. Are there any more questions? I mean, look, we get so caught up. I started saying this earlier, but I don't think I finished it because I get so excited. We get so caught up in the next new thing. Ooh, what's this book say? Ooh, what's that book say? We get so caught up that we don't apply. We don't apply. It is in the application. Neville, Goddard, and the scriptures say to us what? Be doers of the word, not just a hearer of the word. Do, and you will know. Do, and you will know. If you don't do, you can't know. You don't know what you're capable of until you do something. And a lot of people will say to you, they'll quote Neville, and because Neville said, and you don't have to lift a finger to make it so. You might not have to lift a finger, but you got to lift a foot because you have to walk across that bridge of incidents. You have to take advantage of the opportunities that you have called to yourself. So action is always required by way of law. Listen, somebody said to me, but what if I don't go out? Like, is my Mr. Right just going to ring my doorbell? Well, if he's a UPS or a FedEx delivery man, he sure will. But you still have to get up and do what? Walk across and open the door. Is action not required? Every cause has an effect. Action is required. What is the action? Applying. K-Frame, hello. Action is always required. I got a glass straw, y'all. A glass straw. I don't know who thought of that. Because now you got to be extra careful. But I just thought I'd tell you. For shits and giggles, I don't know. Are there any more questions? Because it is... My father always said that to me. Man, know thyself. always said that to me. You have to know yourself. Why is it important to know yourself? Because it is what you know that you recreate. It is what you know that you manifest. So if you're walking around with feelings of inadequacy, well, alas and alack, I am not beautiful. Who would ever want me? I'm a single mother. I bring nothing to the world. Walk around with that attitude and see who you'll encounter. You'll be fighting all day, every day. I don't have time to fight. I don't have the energy to fight. Come now. So you have to know who you are. Now, do you know who you are because somebody told you who you should be? Or do you know who you are by way of law? Do you know who you are by way of law? Or do you know who you are because you heard it through the grapevine? Did you hear somebody say to you, you're aight. You're not good enough. Try a little harder. Oh, you want to get into that school? Really? You don't even have the grades for that. Aw, really? You want to have a good life? Well, you have to scratch and claw your way like the rest of us, because money doesn't grow on trees. What have you heard? And I'm going to save that for a different live chat. Don't fret. I'll save that for a different day. But if that is what you know of yourself because you keep saying it all the time, and as within, so without, you keep encountering the confirmation of you're not good enough. You keep it. So if that's what you know of yourself, this is why it doesn't... The truth is the truth is the truth. Fact. Mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, causation, gender. Fact. That is truth. That is truth. But something can become the truth to you. It can become the truth to you, but it cannot become the truth. What do I mean? Repetition. The more you repeat something, you are programming yourself, so then it becomes what? It becomes true to you. That's why it's not what you hear, it's how many times you hear it and the emotional effect it has on you. That's what will make it true to you. It could be, listen, it could be a lie. But because you hear it so many times, you begin to what? It becomes true to you. It doesn't make it the truth because it became true. That's why if you stick with the law, the fact is this: plant an acorn, you can only climb the oak tree. Prove me wrong. You can't prove the law false, because then it would not be the law. So then what is that saying to you? It is saying to you what you have on the inside, what you're going to plant about yourself in your subconscious mind, you are going to reap it. So choose wisely what kind of harvest you want to bring in. How do you know? I just told you, you can't plant corn and get carrots. So if you plant the thought of, I'm not good enough because my mother said I'm not, what will you get? You will get the confirmation that you are inadequate. So you see how the law stretches you every single day beyond your parameters that you have already set in place. It causes you to say, hey, that's all you think you can be? Well, you can be more than that. What would you like to be? Plant the seed within yourself and begin to behave like it. As I say all the time, a confident man or a confident woman walks down the street, but those shoulders back and dropped right down. They don't curl in like this with their head down and their eyes downcast. They don't behave like that. So if you say, I am confident, you say, I am confident. well, then you better behave like you're confident. Because you are planting the seed of confidence. And you nurture that seed by behaving confidently. Why? Because you will reap a harvest of confidence. That's what you will do. Anyway, are there any more questions before we go? And I have some dessert. Lady Godiva. Chocolate mousse cake. Hallelujah. Child, I can taste it. Whew, hallelujah. Oh, yes. So you see, gone are the days. Oh, I gotta read this. Christian Gibson. Although the law works, I've manifested some really big things, so it's nothing out of the ordinary for me. Something important to note is that if you overdo using the law, it will lead to burnout. Okay, I see where you're coming from. I understand where you're coming from also. But then, this is a cause for checking the self. This is a cause for checking the self. Burnout. The law sustains. The more you get around the law, the more confident you become. The more you get around the law, you respect the law of rhythm. You rest when you're tired. You move when you are what? Rested. When you use the law, you are always rejuvenated. You don't use the law the way of the world. Oh, I want this. Oh, I want that. Ooh, ooh, ooh. The burnout, though, I understand. Because when people are coming from a place of emotional exhaustion, when you are tired because you've been doing so much, you don't even want to use the law because you are exhausted. But if you use the law of rhythm, that one in particular, the ebb and the flow, rest when it is time. Move through the day when you have been refueled. But Christian, I'm going to read it to you and you will understand. Overusing the law is doing 10,000 plus affirmations per day. 10,000 plus affirmations a day is coming from a place of what? A place of lack. That is why you burn out. Not because of using the law. If you have to do 10,000 affirmations, you are unsure of yourself. Go back to the drawing board and become sure of self. Because when you are sure of self, you are rejuvenated. You know when to do, when to rest. You know when to speak, you know when to be silent. You know when to act and when to stand still. This is the problem sometimes with the manifestation community. You don't have to do 10,000 affirmations. That will suck the life out of you. Why? Because you have no life within. You're trying to convince yourself of something that you should just accept. What is it that you need to convince yourself of? You don't have to convince yourself of anything. This is why I say the law does not try to convince you. The law says, I am. And when you look at it, you see it and you know it. And that's how you move according to law. But when you have to do 10,000 plus affirmations, you're coming from a place of lack. You're coming from a place of fear, not you. Not you, Christian. I'm just saying in general. The person who has to do that does not know themselves. Because if they knew themselves and knew how to align with the law, they would know you don't have to go outside and put that kernel of corn in the ground and sit there. It'll grow. It'll grow. It'll grow. It'll grow. You know it grows because the sun will shine on it. The rain will fall on it. And of course, we'll have the squirrel who comes along and sniffs it out and eats it sometimes. Right? You know that too. So that's why when you plant one for you, you plant one for the squirrel. Just saying. Right? So I trust that made sense today. I do love that you asked that question, because this is why a lot of people throw in the towel and say the law doesn't work. The law is always working. It never stops. It never stops. It can't stop. So when they come from that place of, I must do, I must do, I must do. No, I must be. There is none but the self. And this is why sacred geometry means so much to me. Because I learned, I was drawing the seed of life, yeah? And I was like, I saw the videos on YouTube on how to draw it. And I said, but that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. And I was frustrated because I was like, I just really want to draw it, because I heard, see what happens? I heard that if you draw it, it'll change your life, because they have their own frequency that they vibrate at. And so I wanted to know for myself. So what did I do? I got a compass and the pencil and the eraser, and I said, okay, I want to see if this is true. So I started to practice. And I said, but I don't get, but my circles are wrong. And I sat there and I heard as crisp and clear as day, start with circle number 1. So I did the first circle. The first circle I heard in my head is you. You can only recreate you. You define who you are, which is to know the self. Know the self. Because when you know the self, you recreate the self. And that's how I learned to draw the seed of life. With that direction I heard in my head. Christian, thank you. That makes so much sense, Angela. But doesn't Neville say that if you do it daily, if you do not prune it daily, you will get out of the habit, then weeds will grow? Oh, this is another beautiful one. When you are practicing the law on a daily basis, what that means, you're always in alignment with the law. So that if you catch yourself, so if you say, I'll go back to my bestie. She said, oh, I want a bookmark that has a unicorn and these colors, pink and purple, and I want it to match my book. That's what she said. She goes into the bookstore, dun, 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 bookmark with a unicorn, matches the colors of her book. Then she leaves and she goes somewhere. She goes, oh, I really hope they have what I want. I'm like, wait, what? That's the pruning. When you catch yourself saying, I hope, you're like, what? What do you mean you hope? It's either you know or you don't know. So that's when you remind yourself, I know the law. I don't hope. I call those things that are not as though they were, and they become. That is pruning. That is pruning. You catch yourself. Oh, I said that for real? No, I know these things. Make sense, Christian? Oh, I'm loving your questions. I mean, I love all your questions. Everybody who always asks questions, I love them. Because you just have to look through the lens of the law. That's it. And I always use the law of correspondence as within, so without, as above, so below. If you go outside, what is the first thing you see? You see a tree, do you not? The tree has leaves and branches above. So what must it have below? It has to have the roots. It has the manifestation on the outside, right? The subconscious mind would be the roots, the stuff that you don't see, but it sustains life. That is the law of correspondence. You've got these beautiful leaves, but the root. Every time you go outside and you see a tree, you should be reminded that the thing you have within you, when you see it on the outside, those are the leaves and the branches. Apart from me, right? I am the vine, you are the branches. This is scripture. That's what when you see the tree, that's what you think about in your own life. You say, oh, snap. I got all of this up here. These leaves are a manifestation of my life. So if the manifestation of your life is kind of withered and needs a little bit of help, where do you gotta go? To the root of the matter. That's what the tree will show you and teach you if you look for it. As opposed to, but then you gotta recognize that tree is a benefit to everyone around it. It serves a purpose of mutual benefit. Ants and birds and squirrels alike. You understand? Bamboo teaches us to be flexible. Oak teaches us to be strong and sturdy and secure. Tulips and roses teach us to bloom and to share our beautiful fragrance with the rest of the world. That is law. It is law. The law of correspondence. That's why I tell you, when you see it, look at your life and equate it to what you're looking at on the outside. Queen Red Pill? Let me tell you something. Girl, that dessert. Hallelujah. I brought two. My son likes the chocolate one. And I like the chocolate, but with the white chocolate. Dark and white chocolate together. Whew. That's all I'm going to say. Listen, when you put the spoon in that mousse, and you put the spoon in your mouth and you don't move the spoon yet. But then you pull the spoon down nice and slow. Oh, the flavor and it feels absolutely amazing. Queen Red Pill, it does. Because that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted, that's all I got it. That's what I wanted. So you see, it is of great importance. This is why I always say, memorize the law so you can recognize the law, but then you will better utilize the law. When you see a tree, your first word should be correspondence. That should be your first words, correspondence. As above, so below. But there's also as within, so without. You know, if you are going to plant a garden and you go outside and you put the seed in the ground, you say as within, so without. Do you not know that? Well, then put it to your life. This is how you know the law, and this is how you live from that state of knowing that as within me, just as within the seed, I too shall bring forth that fruit. So then it will always make you prune what is within to get the harvest on the outside. And you'll stop trying to shadow box your world, trying to break the mirror to change your face, when it is you. It is you. None to change but the self. I trust that makes sense today. Listen, I just love you all so much. And every single day that I think of the law, inhale. You know, like every day, I marvel at the beauty of what I've been given. This is why Psalm 23 can tell you, the law is my shepherd. I shall not want. You're never wanting for anything. You're never desperate for something. You never have to yearn and beg and plead and supplicate for something. Know what you want and plant the seed within yourself. You see, we are always fulfilled. We are always fulfilled if we live by way of law. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say. Well then, I will take my Bajan self and I'm going to make some macaroni pie because it is Mother's Day. So I'm going to make some macaroni pie to go with my roasted potatoes. Yes, hello. I may even make some rice and peas. Yes, you know. That is what I'm going to do. Yes, with my bad self. That is what I'm going to do. Yes. I'm sorry if there's any vegans in the mix. I apologize. Every man awakens in his own time, yes? But I slow cooked my turkey last night. Oh! Christian says, we love you too, Angela. Oh, I remind you of your mama. Well, she was diagnosed with MS in 2021, so I'm manifesting a strong recovery for her. All right. All right. Let me say this to you. MS. It immobilizes. What else do you know immobilizes? What else do you know that stops us from moving? Fear. Fear stops us from moving. Next time you talk to your mother, say, Mama, are you afraid of something? Just ask a question. And then you'll begin to recognize, as within, so without. The body responds to stimulus. Oh, I know all about this. Oh, yes, I do. I know all about that. I'm not going to go into it, but I know all about that. How the mind... Your mother's dealing with fear. Only she can change it, but you can assist. You can assist. When you think of your mother, what seed are you planting? Oh, I wish my mother would get better. I feel so bad for my mom. She's such a good person. This shouldn't have happened to her. That's what you're thinking when you think of your mother? Or, well, you know what? What seed am I planting when I think of my mother? Begin to plant that seed about your mother. That's how you'll help her. You don't have to go and tell your mother anything. But it depends on what your strongest sense is. Some people are very good visualizers, they see. Some people, they smell. Some people touch, some people taste, some people hear. Depending on what you do, whatever your sense is. If your sense is touch, then hear your mother saying, I am, so excited. I never thought I would feel this velvet on my skin the same way again. I'm so glad I move so freely. If touch is your thing. If hearing is your thing, then you hear her say it. I just told you hearing twice. But that's okay, because I hear. If taste, take your mother out to a restaurant. Walk with her arm in arm. Walking in sync. If you can see that, then that's what you begin to see your mother as. That is the seed you plant. But let me say this. My bestie always calls it a Jesus clause. Let me say this to you. Even though you love your mother and you want to assist your mother, you cannot force your mother into helping herself. That is the part that we must come to terms with. You can't force your mother to do a thing. We change as individuals because the desire to change is stronger than the desire to stay the same. Just love your mother and see her as whole and hale. Hale and whole, fit. That's all. That's your part. She has to play her own part. That's it. Love your mother. Psalm 50. Cyber, I'm reading you. If I were hungry, I would not tell you, for the world is mine, and all that is in it. Cyber, this is why I love you. Because we connect on the scripture. That is exactly what manifestation is. You don't have to want for a thing. You don't have to pine. You don't have to long. You don't have to hope. You create it. The world is yours. Create it. And that, my beautiful friends, is what I will leave you with. I trust that we all learn something, because I'm going to tell you this, I learned a lot. When one teaches, two learn. I always learn. And I apply. I apply. The same way I speak to you is the same way I speak to myself. Aw, Christian. You are so welcome. And thank you. Us mamas. You know, we're in a class all by ourselves. We are. So it is always a pleasure and a privilege to share the law with you on a daily basis. Go through the world and use the law. Just use it. Because you can only get it right. I love you all. And I will see y'all later. You know where to find me at the crack of dawn, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Morning inspiration. Right here on YouTube, Fanbase, Twitter. That's where you can find me. And we always get the last remnants of gravy from the bowl, Cyber, right here on YouTube. That is where you will find me Monday through Friday. And I do have a class coming up starting in June. I don't have the date just yet. It'll probably be a Tuesday or a Thursday. I don't know just 100%. Haven't sorted out the time just yet, but that'll be through my Patreon for people who want to learn the laws and really just live that way, to go deeper. What else I want to tell you? That's it. That's it. But you always know. If you have a question, the link tree in the description below, you can send me an email through there. So I love you, and I will see y'all later. Much, much love to you all.